question. Do you have something in your home right now that you no longer need or use? Clothes you don't wear, equipment you're no longer using, something that you think could be of use to someone else? And do you have that thing sitting in a pile, maybe in your closet or in your garage, heaven forbid, in your storage locker, but you just can't seem to get it out of the house? Well, you and your pile are not alone. We've built a world where it takes seconds to bring something into the house, one-click payments, buy now, and weeks, months, even years to move something back out again. In fact, research shows that on average, Canadians have about $571 of unused goods sitting in their homes. That's a big pile. Circularity is the practice of design to keep things in use for as long as possible, whether that's by repairing what we have, donating, reselling, buying secondhand. This practice allows us to make the best use of the resources that we already have without having to rely on buying new. The challenge is that circularity is also riddled with friction. If you spend more than 5 minutes on Facebook Marketplace, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So today I want to talk about how we can remove some of the friction from this process and how we can design a process that works for the realities of everyday life. But first, I want to tell you about my own pile. As a mom of 2 small kids, I spend a lot of time cleaning out closets. And I will tell you, this is one of my least favorite parts of the job. With every growth spurt or new season comes a task that I put off for as long as possible. Seeing what no longer fits, what to keep, what to get rid of. And so after weeks of procrastinating, I drank a pot of coffee, put on a good playlist, and started pulling things out of the closet. And within minutes, I found myself in this endless vortex of decision-making. Because it wasn't just about what to keep and what to get rid of, it was what to do with all of the stuff I was getting rid of. For every rain boot and sweater in that pile, I had to ask myself, should I sell this? Is it worth something? Would someone buy it? Should I sell it myself? But that means posting photos on Facebook Marketplace and meeting somebody in a parking lot on a Tuesday. Could I bring it to a consignment shop and have them sell it for me? But are they going to go through all of my stuff and not take most of it? Am I going to feel judged for that? I don't want to feel judged. What would I do with all the stuff they don't take? Could I give it to a neighbor or a friend? Is that just adding to their piles? Could I donate it, but those secondhand stores keep raising their prices? Do I want them to get the money? Could I bring it to a charity? What days are they open? What do I do with all this stuff that's ripped and stained? Eventually, my brain just stopped. I was exhausted and mentally overwhelmed. And I laid down in the pile of Paw Patrol pajamas and spaghetti-stained t-shirts. But I felt torn. Because on the one hand, I know that this stuff can be valuable to someone else. And I know that without it, they're going to have to buy something new that creates more consumption, more production, and more waste. But on the other hand, this is exhausting. Sustainability feels like it's always asked more of us. Buy better, try harder, care more. But why does doing the right thing have to be so hard? So I did what most people would do. I got up, I put everything in a garbage bag, and I shoved it in the back of the closet. And as I closed the closet door without thinking about it again and leaving the mental browser tab open in my mind to haunt myself as I went through my days, I had to ask myself, is this just me being disorganized? Or is there something bigger going on here? And I've spent the past year researching that question. And what I found was that when we zoom out from that one closet, there's a much bigger story. Our planet is drowning in stuff. The fashion industry alone produces over 150 billion garments of clothing every year. That's enough to clothe the next 6 generations without ever making anything new. It's not wild. And we've given very little thought to what happens next. So unless we make consumption easier, then we're just going to keep ending up with this. This is the garbage room in my building. And it's full of what I like to call good garbage. Stuff that needs a bit of cleaning, stuff that can just be a bit repaired, stuff that's in perfectly good condition. But when people are too overwhelmed to figure out what to do with it, it ends up in the garbage. So all of that consumption, all of that clothing that's meant to be cheap, fast, disposable, things are designed to be replaced, not repaired, not reused. This is the business model. And the system is working exactly as intended to get us to keep buying more. So unless we can make this easier, we're going to keep ending up with stuff like this. Sustainability, when it comes head-to-head with convenience, convenience is probably always going to win. So we can lament that reality, or we can design for it. So the question isn't just how do we get people to try harder in a system that's broken? The question is, how do we design better? How do we design circular systems that work for everyday life? And in everyday life, people are tired. Through my research, I found that circularity has some frictions that make it difficult to rely on as a default alternative to these fast consumption systems. But there's a couple things that we can do, and today I want to talk about the two big ones: fragmentation and scale. So first, the good news. People have never been more willing. 70% of Canadians have shopped secondhand. And there's never been more platforms. Buy and sell resale platforms like Vinted, Depop, ThredUp, Poshmark are popping up all the time. There has never been more choice. The bad news? There has never been more choice. It can be mentally overwhelming to search through some of these secondhand platforms. For example, if you go to ThredUp, which is one of the biggest buy and sell clothing sites, and you search for kids' boots, you're going to find over 15,000 options. If you narrow this down to kids' rain boots, you're going to find over 500 options. Now, if you go to a fast fashion site like H&M and search for kids' rain boots, you're going to find 6 options. Research shows that on average, the ideal number of options that people need to make a decision is between 6 and 8. So which one of these platforms feels like the path of least resistance? Which one of these feels mentally easier? In a survey I conducted for this research of 116 parents, 60% said that mental load and decision fatigue was the #1 barrier in preventing them from buying stuff for their kids. And these parents have an intention towards sustainability. So when they go to these sites and they keep popping up, so there's so much fragmentation. Are you going to go to Depop? Are you going to go to an in-person site? Are you going to go to one of the big secondhand stores? So many different platforms with so many different options. This fragmentation is adding to our mental load. So as much as these platforms want to solve the problem, they're also multiplying it. And we don't want people turning away from these really great options because they're mentally overwhelmed. The second problem, very related, is scale. We've come to think of scale as bigger is better, right? The more users you have, the more global reach you have, the better it is. But what if we have scale all wrong? In an interview I did with a circular economy leader, she said, when it comes to circularity, scale looks totally different than what we're used to. Think of it not like the branches of a tree that reach bigger and farther and more people, but more like the roots of a system that go deeper and farther into community. The Japanese government has created a framework that shows how scale should be relative to the thing being circulated. The more common the item, the more people around, the less far it has to go to find someone who needs it. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to buy a used t-shirt from someone in California or Chicago when you think about how many people between here and there could use that thing. What makes a lot more sense is to look just a few blocks from my house. Within my community, I can probably find most of the common items that I need: clothes, household items. This shows us that we've had scale all wrong, and it's adding to this overwhelm of choice. We really don't need to look beyond our own communities to find what we need. So what could it look like to build circular systems that work for the reality of everyday life, that reduce mental overwhelm, that are connected and working together? Well, look no further than your local public library. The Toronto Public Library has been deemed the best in the world. And that's not just about books. This is a masterclass in flow. The Toronto Public Library circulates millions of books and materials in hundreds of branches in every neighborhood across the city. It seamlessly integrates digital and physical infrastructure. You can reserve a book online, pick it up at one location, read it, drop it off at another. The system handles the circulation, it handles the rest. My mom worked at the Toronto Public Library for 28 years. And she said that one of her favorite parts of the job was a part that no one sees, a part that no one really thinks about: repair. Because when books would come in torn or mended, they would be repaired. And this repair became almost like a meditative process, the act of making something whole again. These items weren't just thrown in the landfill. They were repaired with care and put back into circulation for the next user. So what could this look like for circulating our own piles? This is the Rituna Mall in Sweden, and it's the world's first fully recycled mall. How cool is that? This is a world class in reuse. Everything is donated locally, repaired or refurbished on site, or made from salvaged materials. They have clothing stores, bookstores, a sporting goods store, even a garden center. And in the back end, things are curated, cleaned, repaired, refurbished, without anybody having to do that work. You drop it off, it gets repaired, and it gets put back onto the sales floor. The coolest part about this, it's run by the city's waste management department. So why spend the money trying to get this stuff into a landfill when we can spend our resources and our money getting stuff back into the community and make money doing it? Now imagine a Rituna-style center in your own neighborhood, just like the library. Part marketplace, part repair center, a one-stop shop for your pile. In the work that I did, parents asked, isn't there just one place we could bring everything? You could have a coffee while your jeans are mended. You could see how fabric scraps from spaghetti-stained t-shirts are remade into something new. Maybe there's even digital infrastructure that allows this to act as a mini Amazon for your community. No haggling. Because maybe the future of consumption is an endless inventory shipped across the world. Maybe the future of consumption is stewardship of the abundance that we already have within our communities. Big retail has been designed for maximum consumption, but circularity can offer something entirely different. Stewardship, participation, value, access, community, even connection. The library and Rituna show us what's possible when we design with intention for for systems that work for the realities of everyday life. And if we can design for even the most exhausted parents, we can rethink how all of our everyday goods flow through our lives with ease, with convenience, even with joy. So the next time you find yourself in the middle of your pile, asking yourself 100 questions and wondering why this feels so hard, I hope you'll remember that it's not just on you. We don't just need to try harder. We need to design better to ensure that our piles are not endpoints, but entry points back into our community. Thank you.